Temperatures there of 2 to 6 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should there be an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome along to Monday night's football show. Richie McCormack here in studio. Irish Independent soccer correspondent Dan McDonnell joining us for the duration as well. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you, Richie.
Just to bring you up to speed on what's going on at Bramall Lane, second half is just underway in tonight's lone Premier League encounter. It's Sheffield United 1, Arsenal 0. Lys Mousset with that goal for the Blades. On the half-hour mark, it came from a corner headed down by Jack O'Connell and poked home from about 5 yards by Mousset to give Sheffield United the lead. Enna Stevens, John Egan and David McGoldrick all starting for Chris Wilder's side tonight. Last night on the show, or indeed yesterday on the show, our main concern was full match commentary of Manchester United versus Liverpool. Nathan and Kevin were there for us, and here's what the lads made of the game.
So it finished Manchester United 1, Liverpool 1 here at Old Trafford. Liverpool's long winning run has come to an end. An important point for Manchester United, but it could have been all three if it wasn't for Adam Lallana's late equaliser. Kevin Kilbane was alongside me, fresh off the ice, straight to Old Trafford. What a professional. Should Manchester United have won that game?
Yes, I do. I think they were the better side, but what they did in the second half, they invited too much pressure. I think they sat far too deep in the second half. They never went to engage Liverpool further up the pitch like they did throughout the first half. The first half performance was a really good way maybe on how to play against Liverpool. That's the way that I think United lined up today. Pereira was excellent, but as the second half progressed, United sense we're going to win the game, so we're going to just try and protect what we've got. They never really became too much of a goal threat in the second half, and they invited more and more pressure onto them, and ultimately it paid dividends for Liverpool in the end.
United were pretty brutal before the international break up at St James's Park with Newcastle. Didn't have a single shot on target in the Europa League. What changed today?
Maybe the setup changed. They went with three at the back today for long spells. They did have four at the back as well throughout the game, but when they were three at the back with the two wing-backs of Wan-Bissaka and Ashley Young, I think it suited them. I think United looked a lot more solid, I think, as from a defensive unit. But the introduction of Pereira playing as a number 10, because what he did today, he locked on to Fabinho. He stopped Liverpool's attacks going into Fabinho, getting turned and starting Liverpool's momentum. All he did without the ball, he kept on closing down Fabinho, even got close to Van Dijk a few times in the first half. He set the tone for United, and then the two lads up front were excellent in spells. Rashford had spells without the ball where he wasn't necessarily involved in the game, but he continued to try to cause problems for Liverpool. So what changed? Honestly, the only thing I could see with what changed today was a real desire from Man United to close down without the ball. They were so much better without the ball. I'd probably say it's as good as I've seen them under Solskjaer without the ball today, with how they started their attacks going forward off the back of it.
That probably gives Solskjaer a bit of ammunition then for the coming months, that if they don't get that level of performance, he can actually turn it back in the players and say, we've seen what they can do, that there is a reason, and maybe it always falls back in the manager, but for some reason they have never got to that level this season.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. They have Europa League game this week, but then you go to Norwich next week, and you've referenced those games there. Maybe the Newcastle game this season for them they were awful, weren't they? They were so bad going forward. They never offered anything going forward, and that is
Norwich isn't 72,000 people, the eyes of the world on you.
No, that's exactly the case, isn't it? Norwich have been conceding goals for fun this season. They've been dreadful at the back, yet they produced a brilliant performance against Man City earlier on this season. So they'll be looking to try to implement their style on United. That's what they do. They play open. They play very much attacking football. So if United are solid enough, they'll win the game. They've got more than enough to win the game. But that is the test for them. Can they lift the game to the level we've seen today away from home, because they've not done it consistently enough?
What about Liverpool then? They came into this game looking to equal Manchester City's top flight record of 18 straight wins, looking to make it 9 from 9 at the start of this season. They were pretty poor for large chunks of that game.
I thought they were pretty poor first half, maybe I mentioned United there early on. I think United's, the way that they played hindered Liverpool in so many different ways. But they were flat. They were certainly flat. You and I both referenced on commentary there, maybe coming back after the international break, Liverpool haven't always been great. And that showed again today. They looked flat. They looked lifeless. They didn't look to me like they had real energy in them. And all over the pitch they were being outrun in the first half, and that's where I was watching them today thinking, they probably need to get this game under the belt. They've come away with a point. I think Klopp will be happy that they did get a point without playing particularly well, particularly here at Old Trafford. So there was a number of gears to go through with Liverpool. They missed Salah, of course they missed Salah, but it showed to me today that they probably need one or two more players in the side, within the midfield, that's going to be able to control the game. If they're not necessarily on it with energy-wise, because we know if Liverpool are going to win a game, they've got to overrun teams. They've got to really just outpower them. And today they weren't able to do that.
But how do you get that energy back, considering they have a Champions League game midweek?
Yeah.
How do you get it back for this day next week when they play Tottenham at Anfield?
Well, I think the game, it's Genk they play this week, isn't it, the Champions League? And it'll be a key few days now leading into that game on Wednesday. Then, of course, after that, how you prepare yourself for the next game that they've got coming up. Who they got next week? And now
Spurs.
Spurs, of course, Sunday. So I think it'll be more after the Genk game where they've got to try and get themselves right, because that's going to be a key period. They've got a larger block of time between Genk and that game. So I think that's going to be the key period, and how he's going to rest and get the best out of the players going into the Spurs match.
You having VAR?
Oh, Nathan, I think it's been a weekend of watching the decisions, listening to a lot of commentators talking about the decisions, and us ourselves today. Two things: one went for Liverpool, one went against Liverpool. One went for United, one went against Liverpool today. And I thought it was a foul, but the decisions that's been made on field are not being overturned simply because they feel as though that Martin Atkinson, I think you referenced it yourself, that Martin Atkinson was in a good position to see it. So they're not overturning that type of decision. They're going to overturn the clear offside decisions, maybe handballs that's leading to the goal, as of course Mane scored in the first half. They're the only decisions that's going to be overturned. I thought it was a foul. It probably was going to be a real soft foul, because Origi went looking for the foul by almost falling over before Lindelof got near him. So maybe in terms of that, it's probably right. Some people would agree, some people wouldn't. I thought it was a foul personally, but that decision is not getting overturned, judging by what we've even seen this weekend, because some of the VAR decisions and calls that has been made, I feel as though that some of those could be overturned, but they're not being.
Liverpool are now 6 points clear of Manchester City. Spurs next week, then they've City a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah.
From what you saw today then, and I might contradict myself in terms of squad depth, in that Adam Lallana obviously came off the bench and scored the equaliser, but the likes of Origi, Lallana, Oxlade-Chamberlain aren't playing much football. Does that suggest that deep down Klopp doesn't trust them?
Not necessarily. I think he's just got so much trust in his usual 1 to 11. That's what it is. Or maybe you've got 12 or 13. It surprised me that James Milner didn't play today, because he's usually been the go-to guy after the international break. So he's left him out today. And I don't think Liverpool's midfield really excelled today. I don't think they did, and that was the key area. Jorginho Wijnaldum, we referenced him at the start of the game, who's been outstanding for both club and country. Never quite got to his usual level today as well. And Jordan Henderson, I don't think he had his best game, and that is where that's the area that Liverpool are going to struggle if they're not overrunning sides. But particularly when you mentioned maybe Lallana and Oxlade-Chamberlain, they both come on, both had a little bit of an impact, particularly Lallana with scoring the goal, but they're not at the level of the usual 1 to 11. Are they better than the three attacking players if they're all fit? Are they better than the three midfield players if they're all fit? Probably not, and that's where Liverpool are now. I just think maybe when you've got Shaqiri coming off the bench, if he's fit, he makes a difference. He gives something a little bit different, and that's where maybe they're lacking. They don't have that bit of difference coming off the bench. Two final things.
Have you finally accepted that you're wrong about Aaron Connolly's role in that goal on Tuesday night?
No, I watched it back. I think there was about 8 or 9 seconds between the ball going out of play for Aaron Connolly to get back and get goal side. No. I genuinely, it's something that you're told constantly. If you watch it when the ball went out of play, there was other errors within it, but Connolly should have got back goal side. He shouldn't have allowed Xhaka to get so much comfortable possession the way that he did.
You and everybody in the world will agree to disagree on that.
Yeah, that's
Kev.
it. Exactly.
Kev always has to have a go, Dan, doesn't he?
Yeah, and like Nathan said, 2 more things, and then he asked the first one of Connolly, and then there was no second one. So it was like, was there another big question he was going to bring up, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, no,
he's getting the eyes from Kev.
Maybe Kev had just said to him, well, if that's your first one,
you've stitched me up there, Nathan.
What's your second one going to be?
Yeah, your view on that?
I don't really think it was. I can see Kev's point.
You can't hang him over it, like.
No, I wouldn't say it was his fault. It wouldn't have sprung to mind. I think
there are so many other issues at play.
Bad use of the ball in the build-up, and there was a period where the ball was being knocked out of play repeatedly. But I can see where Kev's coming from in the position of what the job is for the two forwards in that situation. That you would assume that there was and you could see in the early minutes of the game over there that there was often a discussion between the players when Switzerland advanced. It was like, well, who's following this? And a couple of times Connolly was backed by teammates, and other times there was other players. And
there was a conversation with Jeff Hendry that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, there was a few that were sort of very visible and noticeable. So I can see that, but I mean, there was probably so much else going wrong with the early part of that game that it does seem harsh for his name to be mentioned as one that was
the inability to take a throw in, or at least keep the ball from a throw in, seems to be one of them as well, which is utterly bizarre. But it almost seems like ancient history now. At present day, Arsenal bossing possession as they were in the first half, but still a goal 2-0 down to Sheffield United. At least Mousset with that goal, he's just gone off. Arsenal unlucky not to have a penalty. John Egan in a challenge with Bukayo Saka did appear to make contact, did appear to foul the young forward, but instead Mike Dean, being Mike Dean, he decided it was a dive by Saka and gave him a yellow card for his troubles as well. Freddie Ljungberg, for his protestations on the bench as well, also picked up a yellow card from the rather unique referee that is Mike Dean, and an unfortunate decision from an Arsenal point of view, it seems.
Yeah, Mike Dean, he's gone viral again tonight. He's sort of how can you describe what he did before the game for people who haven't seen it yet?
It's that shot where the teams are emerging from the tunnel and the camera is focused still on the ball, and there's a really important reason why it's on the ball, is because it has "say no to racism" printed on the ball. Especially this week of all weeks, it's really important to get that message across. Mike Dean heads towards the ball and makes a face where his eyes widen, his teeth show a little bit, and to be honest, he looks like it's 4 a.m. in the Body and Soul Arena in Mike Dean's head. That's where he is right there.
Or it's like an old school movie where a dinosaur or someone is coming to take him. Do you know what I mean? He has that look of horror, but it's fake horror. But like Mike Dean is like. What's Mike Dean going to do when he finishes refereeing? Like, Mike Dean is going to present he's going to present a bloopers, like one of those old school Christmas bloopers video. There's going to be Mike Dean's Christmas bloopers, and it's going to be Mike Dean, because like he is heading into like he's going to become a banter merchant when he becomes
self-aware. He's fully.
He'll be on Soccer AM, the new Soccer AM.
Mike Dean is fully aware of what Mike Dean is. That's my worry with Mike Dean.
Mike Dean in the Tranmere, like Mike Dean being a prominent Tranmere
videos.
Tranmere Ultra towards the end of last season as they were pushing for promotion was one of the great moments of like, there is that referee in the crowd in amongst us.
Do you know what he's going to do? This is absolutely nailed on. He's going to be engaging in a Carl Pilkington-esque series on Sky One, because let's be honest, it's going to be on Sky One. Channel 4, BBC aren't going to commission this.
Oh no, it's definitely going to be on.
It's going to be on Sky One.
Or Bravo.
It's going to be nice filler material for, you know, Sky Sports football when there's nothing much on the international week. It's Mike Dean going around different grounds and kind of mixing with the home fans and kind of getting to see how the other half live.
Yeah, they call it open mic, they could call it. And it's just him going around chatting to various people from the world of football. I can actually see the concept really working as a thing.
Chiding people for giving out to the referee.
Yeah.
So, come on, they're human beings.
But then he would go in and like there would be a shot of him with his mates abusing the referee, and then the camera would pan to him smiling, you know, and maybe engaging in some banter with the referee after the game.
Sky, if you're listening, this is a winner. And me and Dan are willing to do this for a fee. Open mic coming soon this autumn to Sky One.
I should mention, though, actually, like Paul, great referees. Paul Chew is a great League of Ireland referee.
Yeah, he retired.
He retired over the year. Paul Chew is a massive Ireland fan. You actually see Paul Chew at all the Ireland games away from home. He's like a real recognisable figure. I saw him last week. He was on the double header.
Bald men being recognisable.
Yeah, well, that was it. I think it was Tbilisi. I think he was in Tbilisi and Geneva. But a real proper like fixture on the Irish, and more so just mentioning that now that I saw he retired, because he was actually very popular referee with players, because he actually could give a bit back and like on the pitch and sort of get involved. But Mike Dean is just that small bit more divisive.
Will Mike Dean get the send-off when he finally retires? I don't know. It's an interesting
He'll
one.
be fine.
Martin Atkinson mightn't after yesterday's performance and the performance of VAR at Old Trafford. That's what you call a neat segue, kids. Your overall impressions of yesterday's game?
Yeah, like, I mean, we touched on it a small bit earlier in the news round. Like, it's not a massive turning point for Manchester United or anything. I don't want to have the big sort of Atkinson VAR debate, because it's just becoming overpowering now in every weekend. It's there's nowhere else to go. If you want to watch the weekend and reflect on the weekend without, but I know you have to speak about it because it was so central. It's becoming so central and pivotal. I mean, you had the Raul Jimenez one over the weekend where he scored a hat trick basically, but he had two of them chalked out from VAR, and it's I was massively supportive of the idea, and I still think probably it's more there's more good than bad in terms of, but I probably didn't anticipate the extent to which it's just becoming so integral to the analysis of every weekend.
There's two things on
every
it.
Game. You can't escape it.
Two things on it. It's not helped by situations like yesterday's where there's no screen in Old Trafford for the fans to find out what's going on. I don't think that's helpful because there's this dark period of a minute, 2 minutes, however long it takes for a decision to come around to being made, where people are completely left in the dark, and there's nothing worse than nothing happening in a match, whether the game's uneventful or whatever, from a fan's point of view. So that is a frustration for sure. The Premier League referees almost dictate not to use the pitch side monitors.
Yeah.
That seems an odd one. Like, if you're going to use something, you use it. Like, you don't, referees aren't handed their cards at the start of the season and go, try not to use the red one if you can. Just give out yellows. You know, they use the tools that are available to them and means of officiating the game. And one of those is the pitch side monitors. And they've decided, almost amongst themselves, and the professional match game people have said basically, you know, use them sparingly. Don't go overboard. Yeah, don't go near them at all.
No, I mean, like, it probably is the application of it as much as the use of it itself that is a problem. I think Klopp did have a fair point yesterday about if you have a situation, if all the versions of the story are correct in the sense that Atkinson was happy to let things go because of let the initial quote unquote foul or coming together go because of VAR, and then he returns so he lets the play, and then he comes back to it and says, well, actually no,
need to have a look at this.
Yeah, like it's flawed, but honestly, like, to me, like, the enemy of, like, sometimes, you know, you watch a match of the day or whatever on a Saturday, and like, you have 2 minutes on a game, and it's what about the penalty? And you watch the penalty, and you know that would drive you mad. And now it's becoming even more intense because you can't avoid it because it's central to the game. Like, now to the point where you're actually forgetting about events. That Conor Harron goal at the weekend, I completely missed that happened.
Yeah. So you're applying red lines and you're applying absolutes to what, in most cases, are subjective decisions.
Because
and those two things will never work properly. They'll never marry.
No.
Because it's literally impossible to do, whereby you apply a yes or no basis to something that, by its own very nature, might be a yes with 83% of people, might be a no at 17.
Yeah,
like that it doesn't work.
So do you just take fouls out of the use of VAR? You know what I mean? That it just becomes very black and white. Offside, ball over the line, which goal line technology already exists, obviously. Yeah. You know, do you just have to remove things that are disputed to that degree?
Well, like, the offside thing has become a problem in and of itself because offside has become so...
The split frame, yeah.
Oh my God. Like...
It's like a photo finish in horse racing, like it's on the bob, you know, and it can you know, it's that precise moment that you press stop that defines everything, versus the actual advantage that is deemed to be, like, the rule exists so you don't gain an advantage.
Like, how is somebody gaining an advantage from being an armpit hair beyond the defender? It's
not just wrecking your head. Like, I've had enough of the debates of it now. And
do you know what my problem is? Do you know what my problem is because it come in every Monday, and there's something, first of all, but on the TVs in the office is that segment rolling on Sky Sports News with Dermot Gallagher and two ex-pros. It's usually been Stephen Warnock and another in the past couple of weeks, and they're going through decision by decision, going, Dermot, was it under the rules? Is it this? And you're like, I don't care. Like, it's taking some of the most boring aspects of the game and blowing them up like.
So what you need for that?
Mike Dean.
You need a referee who's a bit more of a character. He could liven up that Monday slot.
See, I don't think even he could manage it. It's not the fact that it needs livening up. It's just like this. It's just, I don't know what. It's not about the game. You know, that kind of way.
I know it's killing the actual debate on it, but you can't avoid it. And and I can understand why, if you're a supporter or a manager of a team on the wrong side of it, a player, why it's all you will want to talk about after the game, because pretty much large swathes of football fans are convinced that someone somewhere is engaged in some conspiracy against them, and this is. I've
a list of referees and give you a fair down. It's a bad time.
I've heard all about them. From some of the most wacky theories about referees I've ever heard have been in Daily Mail after the game.
Justified. From people who should know better. Justified. I'm not wacky.
Why is someone from Mayo even allowed referee? Was one I heard earlier this season. Why
are people from Mayo allowed to do most things?
I know, it's scandalous stuff, but. It does leave more scope for people to be convinced that someone is out to get them. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Matteo Guendouzi's out picking himself up a booking there. I think it was for a foul, and David McGoldrick completely justified as well.
Mike has taken him away in a very expressive manner.
Look at those eyes.
Yeah,
look at those eyes. They're wondrous things. David McGoldrick is the man who was felled by the flaxen-haired Matteo Guendouzi. We see him crossing the halfway line. I just kind of stood there and checked him.
Yeah, I think McGoldrick was actually... He used his experience there. I think is the official explanation for someone who was sort of half-dived.
Yeah, Dave McGoldrick going over, but still 1-0. And he has actually...
Oh, he got the book for the dive.
McGoldrick has picked up the yellow. That's a correct decision.
Well, actually, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. He's a great guy.
Bad Eyes has given yellow cards to Dave McGoldrick as Alexandre Lacazette is called for from the bench, and Mike Dean is putting his cards away. I could just literally... Do you know they used to have player cam? I don't know if they still do on one of the options on Sky, where you could watch, Ryan Giggs for 20 minutes. I just want the camera on Mike Dean.
It's massively expressive.
It's brilliant. It's actually proper theatre.
Yeah, you wouldn't like to be sat next to him in a restaurant because you spend your whole time watching what was going on his table. Do you know what I mean? Just see what he was up to, what was going on, how was he dressing people. You'd be drawn to him very naturally.
Come here to me. Liverpool yesterday. Kev described them as flat and lifeless. It seemed pretty apt, especially for the first half.
That was sort of predicted, though, wasn't it, before the game, that the record after the international break can be poor, and that I think it was Kieran Cunningham actually on Saturday in here was speaking about the distances that some of them had travelled just with their international commitments, and then I know Salah didn't play. But that has been a slight criticism of Liverpool this season, that actually even in the games when they were racking up the win, that they didn't quite have their usual spark. And so you add in that, and then you add in if there's anything to it, their record post-international break, that it's not madly surprising that a team who actually showed a lot of energy and tried to stretch them in terms of how they played, in terms of mixing the formation up, and the three at the back and the two very pacey attackers that sort of tried to pull them out of shape, and it probably tested them and challenged them, but in a way they sort of ended up coming out of it okay. They played badly, they still got a point at Old Trafford, and
probably deserve more in the balance of play as well.
Do you think? I don't know. I thought Manchester United you wouldn't have complained if they'd held out for the 1-0 win, to be fair, but it's one of these times when Nelly conceded, you take a different slant on it, but they actually...
But they fell back so much during the second half, United, even before that equaliser came. But they were inviting Liverpool to...
No, they were, but it's one of those that if you don't concede, it's like the game plan was perfect. It was executed to a degree. I think the frustration would be that the actual equalising goal that Liverpool scored, was it was just a routine ball across the area. There was some nice movement, but actually it travelled a long way past a lot of bodies.
It was pretty sly. I think it was Ashley Young had basically got walkabout in terms of...
Rojo and Young got actually... initially in terms of blocking the cross there was a few issues, but even it was just a small miscommunication in the area. It was preventable. Maybe it's one of those things that's the effort of 85 minutes that you have a tired mistake like that just catches you at the end. But I'm not so sure it's a massive turning point for Manchester United, really. I think we spoke about a small bit earlier, that there was an element of this is the lesser team getting up for the cup tie or the game against the big shot opponent. Yeah. And so to really draw positives from it, well, you have to see, I know they're playing as a Partizan Belgrade on Thursday in Europa League, but even when you get back into league action in a game that they should win, can they actually use this? Is this a system tweak that's going to be relevant for games where they need to dominate or not? I know Solskjaer speaking after, but maybe this formation might be one for them anyway, with the front two and with Pereira in behind as sort of the number 10, and maybe this could be the best use, the way to utilise the resources, but you still need to see them play against a team that wouldn't be as ambitious as Liverpool.
Yeah, the emotional aspect of a Liverpool-Manchester United game is always going to be there no matter where United happen to find themselves in the league. It is that care factor element that I would worry about from their point of view, is that they've got Partizan Belgrade in the Europa League on Thursday. Like, getting a squad, notionally you should be up for every game. In reality, the truth is somewhat different. And then come back to a Premier League game where you're playing like a Norwich or a Watford or whomever. It's slightly different in terms of the emotional pitch that the players have to get themselves towards. Because the crowd yesterday, to be fair, made noise pretty much the whole game from the United aspect, and that was great for them. But is that going to be there for a Europa League Thursday night game? Is that going to be there when they're being frustrated for 60 minutes against a mid-table Premier League outfit? I don't think you can say that.
You don't have the evidence to say that now. You couldn't say that with confidence now at all, on the basis of like how things have gone over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
It looks like I just there's a massive tendency to just on the basis of one result sometimes go, this is the turning point that they've been waiting for. This validates what they've been doing. So you can't forget everything that has gone before.
And a complete inability to keep scoring goals.
Yeah, I mean that will catch up with you over a period of time.
Speaking of which, Roy Keane interrupted Gary Neville and Graham Souness's clash of words during Sky Sports post-match coverage yesterday to suggest United should sign a certain Spurs and England striker.
Greenwood? 17?
Graham.
That's how desperate you are.
He had
Don't get goal scorers
he
had
a goal scorer in Lukaku. He's a proven goal scorer at the highest level. He didn't want him.
And that's been a smart decision to start the season without a replacement for him, hasn't it?
That's fine, but my point is, what you're saying is just get anybody in.
No, I'm saying a goal scorer. I'm not saying anybody.
They do that.
Go and get goal scorers.
Just go and get Kane from Spurs. It's easy.
You'll be popular with Spurs fans.
Just go and get him.
Serious?
Yeah, what you're staring at. Yeah.
But that's what Man United. That's what Man United should be batting. Right. That's what Man United should be batting. Go for the best. Always have done.
They're in disarray. Go and get him.
We're now in a position though, because I was thinking about this afterwards. Why would despite the fact that United could probably call upon banks and banks of reserves of cash and find ways to make
just imagining Roy Keane playing Football Manager now or something and getting very frustrated if the first bid got rejected. So don't get him easy. I mean,
why would Harry Kane go there? Why would any because Harry Kane is a top line player at this stage. Why would anybody parachute themselves into that mess?
Well, money can always help.
But betting without money, essentially. Right.
I know what but I am. I can see how that project, the idea would still possibly appeal to someone like Kane. Still, if though, I think he probably would. I think he'd need to see that the manager there is the manager who's going to be there for the long run. I mean, if Pochettino,
how could you possibly tell that?
That's what I'm saying. That'd be the problem. I think I'm not sure if you'd want to go there under the current manager who says, yes, you're my guy, and you're looking at him going, well, I'm not sure if he's necessarily going to be around for that long. But there is going to come a point where I don't think Kane has been paid to I don't know.
He's not going to be paid to what he's worth, essentially.
No. So like that, I mean, that will always be a factor.
But why? United as they are, who's going to feed Kane if he goes to United?
No, I know. Is
he looking forward to great supply from Andreas Pereira?
There are fair points to raise.
Lob balls over the top from Scott McTominay.
Do you think that factor would swing it for him, ultimately? Or would he just think, I've done a good service here, I can go to this massive club, they're giving me whatever I want, and I can be the guy to re-energise, to galvanise this club and be their new hero, their central figure.
Yeah.
For what happens.
He could definitely be a totemic figure should all things go well. But what is there to say that just adding a big name striker to that team would make things all okay?
I know. I mean, the recent history would suggest that throwing money at the problem isn't going to solve it. But I mean, that's what we've just played a clip where the proposal is something that involves paying more money to do it. I mean, that's Roy's solution to the problem, is just get that genuine star figure. I mean, at least Kane doesn't look like someone who's going to be a disruptive influence. That he will make the team better. He would make. He is someone that offers a guaranteed probably level of improvement. Do you not think?
He's better than what's there.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't think A, he'd be gettable, and I don't think B, he would be the solution to any and all of United's problems.
Why didn't someone tell Roy he wasn't gettable there?
I can give you a couple of reasons.
I mean, he needed someone to inject some realism so you wouldn't get him. Even he said easy. Go and get him.
Just get him.
Easy. That was a simple, like, maybe he knows something we don't know.
Like, it's not going to happen in January when, money's inflated.
But I suppose, though, if Pochettino did go there, I mean, if that did come to pass, that scenario come to pass, would he not just go back to Spurs straight away and try and take one or two? Who could feed him? Christian Eriksen could. He's had a contract at the end of the season.
Dan, I don't like the way you're making logical points here.
Yeah, you can say Eriksen's up.
This is disturbing.
Get him done.
This is a vision of Manchester United's salvation that I don't think any of us are ready for.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, we've had a point of stat in. I think was this from you, Shane? Shane's not going to... Someone on Twitter is claiming credit for this. It's the first time Mike Dean has booked Freddie Ljungberg since November 2006.
Right.
So it gives an honest appraisal of how long Mike Dean has been around.
Well, I mean, for several years, Freddie Ljungberg wasn't in the country, I guess. But still, it's been a while. Is that the longest gap between Mike Dean booking one person, or any Premier League referee booking one person and another, picking the same person twice in a 12-year gap?
Mike Dean, somebody says, is targeting a spot on Strictly Come Dancing. It's according to the Guardian podcast, at least. Dramatic flourishes and all that from Paul in Cork. There is something to Mike Dean on Strictly Come Dancing, which is, let's be fair, a couple of steps above, let's say, something like Dancing on Ice. Like, it's the true gold standard.
Do you reckon it pays more?
Oh, God, yeah.
Do you think?
100%. Strictly pays more.
Do you not sometimes BBC. Do you not sometimes need to pay more to attract someone to make your club a bit bigger?
Yeah, I know, but look at the calibre of people that are usually on Strictly. They're kind of... BBC can get better people in than ITV.
But how did Chelsea get up to that level? Man City, sometimes you need to spend big, and you never know. This could be the one year where that changes.
Where they just go for Mike Dean.
They've got Michael Barrymore and H on it this year.
Yeah.
Who's even on Strictly this year?
I'm not watching. This is the first year in about 10 years I'm not watching Strictly.
I tried to avoid it, but I couldn't tell you who's on. David James was on it, actually.
Is he?
David James was on it. Yeah, he was.
Judging by his footwork that time he went on as a forward under Stuart Pearce in Manchester City, I can probably say.
Yeah, David James was on it, but I mean,
according to Sun, each celebrity is given a standard 25,000 fee for signing up to Strictly, which rises to 40,000 at the end of October. Once you get past the Halloween episode, it's a biggie. Those who make the quarterfinals enjoy 60,000, which climbs to 75,000.
So it's all equitable. It's like everyone's on the same dough.
Pretty much, unless you go farther, in which case you get more money. So basically, we're in a position now where we're comparing the League of Ireland money to appearing on Strictly.
I don't think Dancing on Ice has the same pay scale, does it? I think it's a bit more. No,
it's been. I don't want to say low rent.
Well, no, I think it's more. I don't think it's
humble.
I'd say if people sat in the dressing room and realised what person next to them was getting paid, they might get shocked.
Let's hope Kilban doesn't get wind of any of that. As much as 500 grand, this is in sterling by the way, for a few weeks in I'm a Celebrities camp or in the Celebrity Big Brother house.
Oh yeah, there's big cash for that.
That's the next step. Well, that's the thing. Somebody proves themselves now on Strictly or Dancing on the Ice, then they make that leap to going in the jungle.
The next level.
Yeah, especially for Dancing on the Ice. It's ITV to ITV, so there isn't that much of a contractual crossover there.
Right.
It's all good.
You've really analysed this in great detail. If only getting Harry Kane was as easy as, working out the pay scale.
Just get Kevin Kilban. Just get Kevin Kilban. Easy. The jungle. Easy. On the way, we'll be talking about Pochettino, Spurs, and a little bit more a reaction from. Why am I seeing the word Cheryl Baker saying the money's not okay, grand? Sorry, how much is Dancing on the Ice celebrities and professional skaters get paid? This is the question that's been left in. It's left in bold. 32 point as well. Salaries for those who take part in the show are reportedly between 20,000 and 100,000, which will be similar money to Strictly.
You said Strictly is a flat rate 25 for starters.
For starters, and then it graduates.
Oh yeah, but that's, you can get up to 100 for starters and Dancing on Ice.
Former contestant Cheryl Baker.
Who's that now?
Quarter of Bucks Fizz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, said the money was not great. And that's Cheryl Baker. She won the Eurovision.
Bucks Fizz. Was she on Record Breakers as well?
She co-presented Record Breakers with Roy Castle. She had a kids' cookery show of a Saturday morning called Eggs and Baker. What her credentials were for cooking, being a sometime pop star and actress, I don't know. But regardless, she made food. But that's the Cheryl Baker quadrant of our show over. We'll be talking Spurs, a little bit more VAR, and keeping you updated on the last 10 minutes of the game at Bramall Lane, which remains 1-0 to Sheffield United after these.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Jeff and Heskey.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
This week's show is coming to you from Seattle with thanks to Aer Lingus. While it may be the birthplace of grunge and the home of Meredith Grey, it is very much a tech city. We'll hear from Enterprise Ireland about the opportunities for Irish tech companies. I'll visit the famous Pike Place Market and sit down with the Chief Technology Officer of the city.
Tech Talk with Jess Kelly.
Thanks to mintplus.ie.
On News Talk.
Download and subscribe to the podcast now at newstalk.com and on the Newstalk app.
These days, we use our Wi-Fi for much more than we used to. Whether it's for our home computer, streaming television, games consoles, tablets, phones, or even our heating. All this can really slow your Wi-Fi down. But you have the capacity to take on whatever new technology comes along and keep things running smoothly with Vodafone Gigabit Broadband Superfast Fibre direct to the home. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready?
Subject to availability in selected areas. T's and C's apply. See Vodafone.ie.
Over 2 centuries, one family business in Dublin has earned a name for excellence in funeral care. Every day they continue to work hard to retain that good name. The name is Fannigan's. Dubliners trust Fannigan's to take care of them on their final journey with empathy, compassion and dignity. And Fannigan's never forget whose journey it is. In over 200 years, some things don't change. Fannigan's. When your thoughts are with them, ours are with you. The Fannigan Group includes Carnegie's, Kirwins and Nichols.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Don't live your life on hold. Get a quote now at itsforwomen.ie and see why we're trusted by over 130,000 women in Ireland.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
If you want to know any more about different members of Bucks Fizz, of course, give us a text. 53106 for 30 cents is the number. It's still Sheffield United 1, Arsenal 0. Sheffield United look like they're going to sit on this lead and protect it.
They've been great, like sort of this season, really, haven't they? I know that actually their points tally doesn't necessarily actually reflect sort of how they've done. I mean, they had 9 points, I think, from their opening 9 games, but you know, they against Liverpool they did pretty well. They were pretty unfortunate. They played well against Chelsea. Like in the games against sort of the better sides, they've actually performed fairly well. I mean, Arsenal have been putting on a certain amount of pressure, but, you know, they 3 shots on target in the game for Arsenal, you know, 4 off target, so they've got possession, but they haven't necessarily been sort of banging the door. And Xhaka had a great effort before half-time, but like Dean Henderson hasn't been sort of producing the performance of a lifetime either.
A couple of good saves from Henderson tonight, to be fair.
Yeah, no, some good, but not in a, you know, sort of a siege suggestion, you know. So, no, it's been a good effort, and they sort of, yeah, well, I don't know, 8 minutes to go, but they've earned the position they're in the game, definitely.
It's one of those ones they could definitely build on if they manage to hold out for the 3 points here, and even a point against you know, handy enough Arsenal side. Wouldn't be the worst result in the world for Chris Wilder's side, and a great boon as well for the 3 Irish internationals that started.
McGoldrick has played like he's still going 82, 83 minutes. You do forget that he was a loss last week. He has been Ireland's main striker, and because he's only recently become the main striker, his absence probably wasn't really spoken of that much in the analysis of the games. It wasn't like, well, when McGoldrick gets back, that point was only made in passing a couple of times rather than it being the centrepiece. When you consider that Ireland's best performance this year was at home to Georgia, and he sort of knitted things together in terms of holding the ball up and bringing others into the game, and that was probably lacking a bit in Tbilisi in particular, and also in Switzerland. But
we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Would you have him with 2 up front, or would you basically play him on his own again?
Well, he's shown that he's good enough to probably play on his own, and that would have been a bit of a concern. Like when he came into the squad first, he would have been considered like a number 10, like a Wes Hoolahan alternative, but that's because he'd spent a couple of years at Ipswich being very injury prone. You wouldn't have trusted him to last the pace of a game as a leading light, and actually he's probably surprised people, and he's become a bit of a crowd favourite even with the Ireland fans in terms of his work rate. He wouldn't have been known necessarily as, I think the perception of him would have been as someone who was technically good rather than someone who will put in the yards for you, but he's actually shown that he can do both. So him being back, you know, touch wood, presuming that he will be back for the game in November, like it is a positive. You think in a home match where you just need to keep the ball a bit better, like he has played well in the home game, so that probably is something that you could be optimistic. Would you play him in a 3-5-2? You actually think he would be suited to it.
Yeah.
But I can't see. I don't think that'll be the system.
Yeah.
No, I think it'll be the 4-3-3 or whatever. It's more of a 4-5-1.
Yeah.
You know, but he can actually play. If he wants to play positive 4-5-1, he could be the 10 as well as the out striker as well.
We're seeing Oliver's for Oliver coming on at the moment. Ollie McBurney, probably a controversial introduction given his charge of drink driving there in the past 48 hours, coming on for Sheffield United. Oliver Norwood, the man heading off, still 1-0 to Sheffield United with 5 minutes to go. We are heading down, good news, to your beloved County Louth on Monday the 4th of November.
Was that an impression?
No. Off the ball.
That was an impression. No. Do it again, come on.
Something in my throat.
Oh, okay.
Still getting used to my glasses. Off the Ball will be live from the venue at the Hotel Imperial in Dundalk ahead of the 4th round of the Champions League group stage matches featuring Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City. We'll be previewing the games alongside Keith Andrews, Niall Quinn and Damon Delaney. The lads will also be predicting who will be making the trip to Istanbul. This is an exclusive event, so the best way to enjoy it is to be there on the night. Tickets are limited, so get on to offtheball.com/events now to avoid disappointment. The event is for over 18s only, and it's all with thanks to Virgin Media Sport.
4th of November, the day after the cup final in the Dundalk.
There we go. Could be celebration, could be crashing the celebration.
There could be could get unruly up there, which is all the more reason to go.
God, and I've just realised I now really hope that it is unruly up there.
Yeah.
Considering who their opposition is on the day.
Excuse me?
What?
Excuse me?
Nothing. Doesn't matter. I wanted to. We were going to get to the Klopp and Solskjaer talking about VAR in a minute. But an interesting tweet on the subject of refereeing from David Priest. Wasn't to us, to be fair, but he's just making a general point because obviously he works in Sweden now. He's saying that the referee Christopher Carlson, who was in charge of the game involving Djurgården and IFK Gothenburg, came out after that particular game and said that he and his team weren't happy with 3 of the decisions that were made in that game, and that they could, they admitted, affect not only that particular game but the title race as well. He says about a particular penalty decision he feels disappointed with the decision.
That's great. That's
the kind of thing actually that would make VAR better, is if there's more transparency, I guess, is the word.
Interaction. No, I always like that. I know that there would be different views, and could that inflame things if referees were coming out and giving interviews on a regular basis. I know that there are times where you speak to referees who would say they would love to. They'd love to come out and explain their thought process, because there may be things like sometimes there's very black and white. Maybe I'm looking closer to home here. We don't have the same amount of replays, but you might assume a decision has been made.
Replays, Dan.
You might assume that decision's been made for one reason, but there's something you've missed in the build-up, and they would like to come out and clarify this. And sometimes you can try and seek them out and find out, but other times they can't really get into it.
Yeah.
And it would be healthy. Would be healthy to be able to have that engagement. And David Priest, I'm guessing, is telling that in a positive context, that story, so that it's refreshing that someone would come out and do so. But I think the game is too. It's funny, you embrace certain traditions, so you evolve beyond certain traditions, because obviously there would have been a traditionalist objection to introduce technology, but there are certain things about the silence of the referee still, that there's an old school belief that that's the way it should be. That Swedish title race, by the way, considering every league...
This is going to be the most hipster thing you come out with, that Swedish title race is...
Well, every league in Europe now, with the exception of the Premier League last year, is generally won by around 20 points. All the smaller leagues are dominated by the same teams.
Yeah.
There's 2 games to go, and there's 3 points separating 4 teams. And Djurgården's winning today have gone 3 points clear of 3 teams on the same number of points. It's actually a title race. You forget what that's like. In most countries in Europe, the same team wins the league every year. Rosenborg win it, Bate Borisov, Celtic, Dundalk, all the same teams are in the same Champions League win every year. This is an actual title race. It must be exciting.
Got to be with today's.
Where this was a regular. Man City, Liverpool did deliver a title race last year. The Premier League, ironically, still can deliver them. But so many other leagues now just don't have them at all anymore. Bayern Munich, how many leagues have they won now? Juventus.
It's crushingly boring at this stage.
It's just, you get to the stage of the season where you assume that things are going to be wrapped up. So it's there's a novelty discussion value in a league that more than 4 teams can win it with 2 games to go. What a buzz that must be.
That's insane.
Fixtures all matter.
Spurs would have presumed, this is another seamless segue, would have presumed that they would be in the shake-up this season for a Premier League title race. It now looks, obviously, that they're not going to be, and that they're going to be struggling to hang on to their manager, or whether or not the manager wants to stay there. Like, it's something that, without wanting to compare apples and oranges again, as people have kind of been wont to point out on Twitter and on text this evening, there is that situation that Pochettino has, that Joe Schmidt has, whereby you're probably there a year too long. Like, there becomes a period of about 5 or 6 years with every manager, well, not every manager, but with most managers, that if by the 5th or 6th year, everybody, especially if there's a massive turnover in squad, everybody's heard everything, you've done that hard running and training, and you're like...
It's interesting, like you talk about the parallel, that when you have like players who know they're probably leaving as well, they're at the end of the road, the manager you suspect is on the last lap, and it's not like there's these big discussions where these things happen, like people have it just, something seeps into the camp that you can't actually...
It's a malaise.
Yeah, it's complete malaise. And it's not like, as in, people have big discussions and it just happens unconsciously. I thought Spurs at the weekend. If you were to say Spurs, in the current position that they're in, what fixture do you want at the moment? I would have thought that Watford at home, given how poor they'd been, would have been so high up the list. You know, it would have been, to me, it was like, this is finally, after the international break, you know, things have been a bit sour. Like, Eriksen went off at a great moment. I know he didn't play at the weekend, which is a factor, but you know, it was a time to sort of take stock and go, right, you kick off again into another cycle. There's Champions League this week. They can get themselves going, and really they ended up being fortunate to get a draw.
It's a weird one, because you often hear of the way that Daniel Levy runs the club, and that nobody's allowed going exorbitant wages, and that nobody holds the club to ransom, and that they built around trying to have the ground in place while also keeping the team competitive. But all that's undone if you allow a situation whereby your manager is kind of in a cycle whereby the players have gotten sick of him. You've got certain players who mightn't necessarily want to be there, and Christian Eriksen is obviously the one that jumps out, but there are others.
Danny Rose,
Vertonghen, that don't want to be there anymore. Like, that's a situation that ultimately Daniel Levy has allowed blossom at that club.
He didn't get rid of the players. It would appear, and like, you know, that it was their inability not just to bring players in, but also to be satisfied enough to get players out.
Well, that's a Manchester United problem as well.
You know, that they weren't able to manipulate the market, and that's playing the game now. And you'd have like Stephen Hunter people in, like, you know, agents, people involved in that game, who would talk about, like, you know, how it's a skill as much as anything to get players in is to get players out. Like, you do employ people or get onto people and say, can you make this happen? When there's clearly a suggestion that players are unhappy and they were looking to go, and then there was obviously a difference between the Premier League window and the European window this year, which probably, you know, complicated things, because then you hadn't brought players in, and then you're thinking, well, can you afford to let numbers go? And I can appreciate the equation that you consider, but they did also bring players in the summer, and they don't trust them, so, or they haven't clicked for whatever reason. So they have mismanaged it. But even strip all of that away, you know, there comes a point where it's still some players who did some very good things last year. I know their away record has been a problem, but like, they're home to Watford. It's a perfect game just to get things going, and they missed out on it.
They missed out, but it just, like, it's something that the Champions League run papered over a lot of cracks, because that away record had kicked in before the events in Amsterdam and before they got to the final against Liverpool. Like, it had been an issue ongoing probably for the entire second half of last season.
Oh no, it was big time.
Most people didn't notice because they're like, oh look, Spurs are going great in the Champions League.
Yeah, no, but they had the points on the board as well that it didn't become such a big thing, you know, that their away record was poor, because they had delivered enough points across the course of the season. You could argue with our heads turned towards the end of it by the Champions League, and I get that. But it doesn't just adequately explain how poorly they've done this year. I think they've dropped more points in the first 9 games this year than they had in something like 21 games last season. So it's a massive drop-off. And I mean, now they're in a situation where I think they have back-to-back games against, I think it was Red Star Belgrade they play back-to-back in the, or could be, is it Red Star Belgrade? Or is that Liverpool to play Red Star Belgrade?
No, it's not, it's Spurs, because it's been on the RT ads where they're saying it in the official Champions League voice, which is Crvena Zvezda.
Oh yes,
rather than Red Star Belgrade.
Yeah, so, I mean, games that you would think the old Spurs, or the Spurs last season, would be able to deal with comfortably enough. But Liverpool lost in Red Star last year, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, if things aren't just 100% right, you just want to be pretty careful. You know, this could all unravel very quickly.
Yeah, just looking at their next run of games, it's Red Star at home this coming week, tomorrow in fact, then Liverpool away, Everton away, Red Star away, and Sheffield United at home. It's like by the time November comes around, it could be in serious danger. Yeah, it really could. And
that 3 away game run,
Sheffield United come.
Then they have to go to Bayern away not long after that as well too. So
I kind of fancy Pochettino not to be there.
It seems remarkable that it would. I still think he would have to make the move before they would. If you get me, I think it would more. I don't think it's a case of him being sacked. I think it's more a case of him going, and listen, it would actually be genuine mutual consent as opposed to fake mutual consent, like so many of the other deals. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Sadly, a few questions in about Bucks Fizz in this part of the show. Hopefully we'll get a couple more in after this short little break. Sheffield United on the cusp of 3 points at Bramall Lane.
Off the ball on News Talk.
This Irish success story is brought to you by Guaranteed Irish.
Did you know that Black Knight is the leading Irish-owned web hosting company with 84,000 customers in 130 countries? Based in Carlow, Black Knight employs 48 people, providing domain names, email and web hosting using the latest technology and responsive customer support. Guaranteed Irish welcomes companies that are altogether better choices for our communities. So look out for it. GuaranteedIrish.ie. Altogether better.
So you've got my watch, my hat, my coat, and my favourite rugby shirt. Let's call it even.
But sir, it's free.
What?
Your PRSI contribution entitles you to a free eye test at Specsavers and glasses from our €69 range.
I'd better put my clothes back on.
Fancy scoring free tickets to an incredible UEFA Champions League experience with Pepsi Max? Then show us your skills. Pepsi Max has 20 pairs up for grabs, and to be in with a chance to win, just pick up a Pepsi Max UEFA Champions League promotional pack in store. To enter, just post a video or pic of your best football trick with your promotional pack and share it on Pepsi Max Facebook or Instagram with hashtag For the Love of It. See pepsimax.ie for details. Pepsi Max, maximum taste, no sugar.
Okay, kids, and we're off.
And we're not.
Talk to Liberty Insurance about getting a great deal on your car insurance with Breakdown Assist, including Home Start, on all our policies. Switch today and get up to 5 weeks free when you get a quote and buy online.
Try it now.
Liberty Insurance. Ready for the real world. Maximum 3 call-outs per year. Online discount applies to new private car policies only. 5 weeks free equals a 10% discount. Maximum discount €150. Subject to a minimum premium and apply before optional covers. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Liberty Seguros, Compañía de Seguros, Araya Seguros, S.A.A. Trading as Liberty Insurance is authorised by the General Director of Insurance and Pension Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Celebratory Sheffield United players on the Bramall Lane pitch. They've just beaten Arsenal by 1-0. Lys Mousset settled it on the half hour. He went off with about 25 minutes to go. He's walking around in his coat. The rest of the players taking the applause from the Bramall Lane faithful. And great 3 points, Dan, for Sheffield United. Great to see John Egan we're seeing on screen at the minute, all smiles. And Enda Stevens being such a key part of it too.
Yeah, I saw Enda Stevens was high up the stats for speed today or something. It's sort of in terms of his, I think it was over, number of yards, whatever. Is he was well up there, well up the list. No, it's brilliant. I mean, when you consider, I know Stevens was involved in the Premier League for a handful of games with Villa when he was younger. A lot of those lads, including Egan, McGoldrick, it's their first time even playing at this level. And in fairness to Chris Wilder as well. I mean, it's a great testament to. They've managed to get promoted. They haven't upset things in terms of like bringing in players. They're obviously a really united group, but they must be really well drilled and well managed as well, that they have a sort of defined way of playing and it's working for them.
And there's no fear essentially about transferring that style of play that got them promoted up into the Premier League as well. It seems to be working for them. OTB AM, our Sports Breakfast show, is back tomorrow morning on all our social channels and indeed on OTB Sports Radio at offtheball.com. It's live from 7:30 AM, and make sure you tune in tomorrow morning and all this week as they're giving you the chance to win UEFA Champions League tickets with thanks to Pepsi Max, one of the proud sponsors of the UEFA Champions League. Keep an eye on their promotional packs for more details. And speaking of the Champions League, full coverage tomorrow night from 7 p.m. in the company of one Damien Delaney. Manchester City, Real Madrid, Atletico, Bayern and PSG are all in action. We'll also be talking to Desi Hutchinson, who's now hurling with Ballygunner, having played for Waterford FC, and before that would have gone over to England with the likes of Aaron Connolly at Brighton. Dan, thanks so much for your time.
Cheers, Richie.
Mr. Tom Dunn is up next till tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. It's good night.